Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Okay. Okay, you are all ready?
Already.
Let us begin with the meditation. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought in mind, let us begin our meditation, mindfulness practice. As we repeat every day, we pay total, undivided, mindful attention to our breathing exclusively, without using words, concepts, ideas, or thinking of the past or future. Even in the present moment, we don't think of anything else but this breath. Pay attention to it. As we pay attention to the breath, we can notice the breath touching our nostrils and expanding our lung area and our abdominal area. As we breathe out, they contract and we feel the breath leaving our nostrils. As we breathe in and out, there are two brief pauses. One after inhaling complete, the other after exhaling complete. There will be a very brief pause, and that will change as we breathe in and out. And then we feel the breath, and we are aware of the breath. We perceive the breath. We pay mindful attention to the breath. As we breathe in, we feel the inhaling breath, perceive inhaling breath, pay attention to inhaling breath, and become aware of inhaling breath. As we breathe out, we pay attention to we feel exhaling breath, perceive it, pay attention to it, and become aware of it. And they change all the time as we breathe in and out. Feeling, perception, thought, and attention we had when we were breathing in are no longer when we breathe out. New feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness arise. And this invariably happens all the time we breathe intentionally. And then we become aware of the fact that there is nothing to hold on to. They all appear and disappear. So the mind naturally let it happen, let them appear and disappear. Mind doesn't try to hold on to anything. And that is our experience. And then there is no any rigidity, uptightness, because when we breathe in paying attention only to breath, the body relaxes, mind relaxes, breath relaxes, and then the mind becomes very relaxed. There are feeling of metta. When we are totally relaxed, mind is so relaxed, feeling of metta arises. And then our rigidity, uptightness, resentment fade away at that moment temporarily. And then we know that we are practicing metta for not only us, for those who are suffering from this virus, and there arises a compassion for all living beings. Then our restlessness and worry fade away, and then joy arises. Joy arises when we see this happening without greed or hatred. Then compassion arises. Then sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. And then seeing all these positive results, all negative states fading away, positive results are there, confidence arises in us that our practice produce beneficial, wholesome results. That means we see our potential for growing, developing wholesome mental states and practicing meditation. And then gradually we gain happiness. When happiness arises, mind and body become even more relaxed and then gain concentration. When we gain concentration, we don't hold on to it. We just be aware of the concentration, and it also in turn sees inner subtle changes in taking place in our body, feelings, perceptions, thought and consciousness. They are constantly, continuously changing, and this change is the flux, movement, motion, activities taking place in our body and mind. Noticing them, our awareness of impermanence becomes strong, and every moment this awareness becomes stronger, and that gives insight to let go of holding on to any permanent self. When everything is impermanent, changing, we cannot stop that. Let that happen, and we simply notice them. So greed, hatred, delusion, all of them flow along with the impermanent nature, changing nature. Du- Dukkha pattaca nidukkha bhaya pattaca nibbhaya soka pattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. With this very wholesome thought, let us spend the rest of our morning session answering questions. I think Brian will read questions and I answer them.
Okay, Bhante, here's your first question. I have heard that the chanting of the suttas in Pali with understanding of the sutta and proper pronunciation has a great beneficial effect. Is this true?
Um, it is true. I like to mention examples. One is called Bojjhanga Sutta. There are three Bojjhanga Suttas. Uh, one was recited to Mahakassapa and another Mahamoggallana, another for Buddha. Kassapa Bojjhanga, Moggallana Bojjhanga, and Chunda Bojjhanga. Chunda is a monk who went to the Buddha even when the Buddha was not well. Venerable Chunda went and recited Bojjhanga. The very same Bojjhanga that Buddha taught and practiced to attain enlightenment. This venerable monk recited. It is called Chunda Bojjhanga, Mahachunda Bojjhanga. And after listening to this chanting, Buddha got up from his sickness. Now, it is very, very interesting. When Venerable Chunda was reciting the discourse, Buddha knew every tiny little fraction of the sutta very clearly. And that was so delightful, so powerful that is hormone which can make sometimes when there is some chemical imbalance, there can be some feeling of sickness. Sometimes even that can manifest in the body. In the Buddha's case, there was no any defilement in his mind to make him make his chemical imbalance in his brain. But Buddha must have been fatigued, tired physically when he was spending, especially as he was getting old. The body must have become weak, and naturally, when you have a body, even after enlightenment, because the body does not attain enlightenment. It is the mind that attains enlightenment. Therefore, mind is very clear and pure and perfect, but this body is so fragile, subject to change, and although he did not have any attachment to the body, and so on, body must have been very fatigued. Listening to this those that discourse Bojjhanga, 7 factors of enlightenment, his mind became very pure, body became very relaxed, and then he got up very fresh, very fresh. Another is Mahakassapa, also enlightened person. Mahamoggallana also was enlightened, and they all attain enlightenment by following the factors of enlightenment, perfecting the factors of enlightenment. And still, their bodies can become weak, fatigued, tired, because these enlightened beings selflessly serve the world, serve suffering beings. You can do that physically, you can do it to some extent, but you cannot do it indefinitely. And therefore, when they were fatigued and tired and became weak, this Vajjhanga, listening to them, they got cured. Another discourse is called Girimananda discourse. There are 10 kind of perceptions are mentioned, and these 10 perceptions, the factors of enlightenment, I'm going to talk about factors of enlightenment later in my talk, because I started the discourse on the defilement, what you call influxes, called Sabbasava. Sabbasava Sutta, when I explain it, explain the steps of overcoming our asavas, defilements. I will explain, because the last one is especially for on meditation, on Bojjhangas. So today I want to spend time on another discourse by listening to which Venerable Girimananda got well. There are 10 perceptions. I think you like to hear those 10 perceptions. There is a book also that I have written on this 10 perception, that is called Meditation on Perception. It is a small book. Later on I began to see even more things to be added to the book. Anyway, when Venerable Girimananda was sick and even could not get up from his bed, Venerable Ananda approached the Buddha and said Venerable Girimananda was sick. Then Buddha asked Venerable Ananda to go and recite this discourse on 10 perceptions. 10 perceptions are: number one, you know number one? Anicca Sanya, perceptions of impermanent. Perception of on impermanent. There is a special discourse in Samyutta Nikaya. It is called Anicca Sanya Sutta. Sanya means perception. Anicca Sanya is perception of impermanent. In the perception of impermanent discourse, Buddha has given 10 similes to explain the benefit of practicing mindfulness of impermanence, or becoming or perceiving of impermanence. The last one of these 10 I like to repeat, I mentioned it earlier. Remember, I'm not going to deviate from your question. This is an elaboration or explaining the question, answer to your question. In the discourse on the perception of impermanence, Anicca Sanya discourse, among 10 similes, the last one is the simile of rising sun. In the autumn, when there are no leaves on trees, if the sky is free from clouds, blue sky, when sun rises, you can see any tiny little object in the bright sun. Similarly, when you practice mindfulness of impermanence, you will see every tiny little minute thing is changing, impermanent. Every atom, every molecule, every proton, neutron, whatever you experience in your body and mind, you notice them always in a state of flux, in a state of movement, action, moving. Then there is no one single iota in your body or mind that does not change. So the notion of self will totally, completely vanish from your mind, that permanent self. So this is the power of anicca sanya. So this is one of the 10 perception. Then the second is anicca sanya, anatta sanya. Anatta definitely is non-self, perception of non-self. As you practice, as you see impermanence, naturally your view of permanent self will also vanish. That is the second perception. The third is asubha sanya, perception of impermanence, perception of unattractiveness, asubha, unattractiveness of the bodily parts. That is called sometimes asubha sanya, sometimes it is called particular manasikara, meditation. This is one of the mindfulness of the body meditation in the Satipatthana Sutta, Mahasatipatthana Sutta. This is a very special meditation called Asubha. There are some misunderstanding also, but let me explain these 10 first, 10 perceptions, and then if I have more time, I can go back to explain some of them in more detail. Asubha sanya means that nothing in this body that we can see something really for us to become attached to, thinking that this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Nothing is there. Everything is in a state of changing, flux, moving, appearing and disappearing. So no emotional reaction towards any part of the body. Especially when we see something pleasant, we become attached to that. In this body there is nothing in such, to say very bluntly. Everything is not attractive. Then the fourth is adinama sanya. Adinamasi means danger. That means there are all kind of sicknesses. Almost 47 sicknesses are mentioned in the discourse. I think 47 or some 40 these sicknesses are mentioned in that discourse. That means this body is subject to falling sickness, falling sick, and That is the adina of this. Adina means danger, danger of this body. So when we meditate on this, we perceive this danger that is called adinava sanya. So anicca sanya, anatta sanya, asubha sanya, adinava sanya, pahana sanya. Pahana means abandoning. What is abandoning? When greed, hatred, cruelty arises in our mind, we have to abandon it. That is one of the 7 ways of overcoming defilement, overcoming influxes or asavas. That also is mentioned in that discourse. I'm going to talk about it later on when I continue my talk on abandoning asavas. I started yesterday and I will continue it tomorrow. And tomorrow I will explain it in more detail. Adinava pahana. Pahana sanya. Then viraga sanya. Viraga means non-clinging. Raga means clinging. Raga also is used for color. Viraga means discoloring. Our clinging slowly fading away, disappearing. It is just like when you have a picture drawn with watercolor. When you draw a picture with watercolor, if you put some on the picture, if you put some water, it becomes so mushy, so blurry, so it becomes undistinguishable. And that kind of state is called viraga. Raga means color, viraga means discolor, the perception of discoloring. Then virag nirosanya, perception of cessation. Then sabbaloke anabhirata sanya, not becoming passionate towards anabhirata. Abhirata means become passionate. Anabhirata means not passionate of anything in the world. Sabbaloke, everything in the world is not for us to become to become passionate, dispassionate, awareness or perception or dispassion. Sabba sankari is anicca sanya. Again, sankara, all sankaras, wholesome sankara, unwholesome sankara, imperturbable sankara, sankara means conditioner, word conditioner, body conditioner, mind conditioner, karma, all are called sankaras. So, sabba sankara, they all are impermanent. Sabba sankara, anicca sanya. Then the last is also in the category of perception. When you hear that, you may sometimes be perplexed, because that is a subject of meditation. That is called anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing perception. These are the 10 perception. Now, when Venerable Ananda went to Venerable Girimananda and recited these 10 perceptions, Venerable Girimananda listened to these 10 perceptions with full 100% attention, mindful attention, understanding the meaning of every word, every perception he understood, and all his pain completely disappeared from his body, and then he got up with good health, with fresh mind. So there are some discourses that if suttas that if you chant with this attitude, with understanding, that can heal some of your sicknesses. That is true. And other questions.
Other questions. Bhante, for householders, conditions are not conducive to the arising or development of the jhanas. Could Bhante please address the importance or unimportance of development of the jhanas?
Now, it is not true that lay person cannot attain jhana. That is not true. But the person has to train himself or herself for sometimes with understanding Dhamma to develop the mind state to attain jhana. Of course, when you are not a lay person, when you are monastics, you have more time, you are more free to practice jhana. But we know from reading the discourses that there were people even they attain jhanas, sometimes even faster than the monastics. We know that in some places even old women have attained jhanas and even supernatural powers, and plus supramundane attainment like anagami states by as a lay woman, old woman. We read those stories in our literature, Buddhist literature. And therefore, to assume that lay people cannot attain jhana is not correct, but it is difficult. However, in order to attain liberation, total liberation, attaining jhana is not absolutely necessary. That also is true. What you need is good concentration, just like I mentioned every day in our little meditation session. I mentioned that when your hindrances subside, all you need is overcome your hindrances. When you overcome your hindrances, you gain concentration. This concentration always not necessarily is jhanic concentration, but the quality is like that. The mind is free from hindrances, and you can gain that kind of concentration. And that kind of concentration you can gain even by practicing mindfulness. In Buddha's discourses, we can see that these two, samatha and vipassana, are necessary. Samatha, that is tranquility, you need certain degree of concentration in order for you to see impermanence very clearly. In the discourses, we can see that this is advocated and this is possible. There are people who have attained full enlightenment without attaining jhanas, like Bhaya Daruchirya, Buddha, Visakha. Visakha was only 7-year-old girl when she attained extreme entry. Venerable Kondanya, Venerable Sariputta. Sariputta as a lay person, he has not become a monk. As a lay person, listening to Venerable Asaji's small stanza, one half of one stanza, Venerable Sariputta was Upatisha, attained the stream entry. In those situations, no jhana, these individuals have not attained jhanas, but they attain stream entry. So, don't be discouraged if you cannot gain jhanas when you practice meditation. You just try to see impermanence. Whoever asks this question, my dear friend, don't hesitate to see impermanence. All the time you can see that. That alone will open your eyes to see, attain the stream entry. Another question.
Another question. I can identify in myself when I am experiencing greed and hatred, but identifying delusion in myself is more difficult.
Sure.
Your guidance on this?
Sure. I mention in my every day I mention this. Delusion is when the mind is not clear. Delusion can arise. And therefore, I said to everybody from the very beginning of our meditation practice, we must make our mind very simple. Don't think of the past, don't think of the future, don't think of your work, and don't bring all kind of emotions, family problems, schools, education, economics, society, politics, sicknesses. Don't think all of this. Put all of them aside and tell them, I will come back to you later. I'll come back to you later. I'll come back to you later. You sit as a little good child, good boy. Sit there. Don't worry. Don't bother. Don't bother. Leave them aside. So you strip them off of your mind. Let them go. And then you make the mind very, very simple. And then you can see some development of meditation in your own practice. You pay attention to your breathing and you feel the breath. That feeling is there's no confusion in that feeling. That is true. You feel. And you keep paying more and more attention to that feeling. And every time you breathe in and out, that feeling changes. Inhaling, when you inhale one feeling, that feeling you notice when you exhale, the feeling of inhaling is no longer there, but feeling of exhaling is there. There you can see the change of feeling. Then you can notice you perceive it. You become aware of it. You become aware of the fact that you are paying mindful attention without greed or anger and no delusion, because you see what is happening. You always must see what is happening in you as you are breathing in and out. So, Buddha said, we repeated what the Buddha said many times, that this Dhamma, this truth, is within you. Pacchattam vedisabbo vinyoi. You yourself must see that. When you see that, your mind becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. Your confusion, your delusion slowly fade away. It fades away. And that is how you got to get rid of your delusion, particularly with regard to meditation. When you make the mind simple, people get all kind of deluded state because of their imaginations, their stress, too many work, so many things cluttered the mind. Then you don't know what to do. You get confused. And therefore, Buddha said, Apicchasa and Dhammuna and Dhamma Mahichasa. This Dhamma is for gaining simplicity. Simplicity. So this is how you make it simple. I think that's all time we have today. And I'm happy that you all came. And I want to continue my everyday wish for all those who are now suffering from this COVID-19. May all these people suffering from this be free from that as quickly as possible and return to their normal life, continue their life in good health. And others, as I mentioned, there are many people who are mourning, grieving, lamenting the death of their own relatives, friends, and parents, and so on. May they overcome their grief, especially through the understanding of Dhamma, and return to their normal life. And there are others who are trying to help these suffering beings, whether they are grieving over the death of their loved ones or suffering from this sickness. There are people who, like doctors, nurses, psychotherapists, psychologists, and so forth. In various ways, they are trying to help these people. We want to wish them to be healthy, happy, peaceful, and strong, to continue their wonderful selfless service. Others are supporting all these individuals, organizations that are trying to help these people by making financial support. May they continue their generosity with compassion and understanding. There are leaders who are trying to help these people. Wonderful, understanding leaders make right and wise decisions. May they continue their noble work. And other leaders who are not that wise and compassionate, understanding, may they also have wisdom, understanding to make right decision for the benefit of all these suffering beings. With this very earnest wish, I like to end this morning's session. Thank you.